The releasing of a belief system is not the death of your identity. The releasing of a belief system is an expansion of who you are. Welcome to the Akashic Recordings. My name is Annette Deleu. I'm an Akashic conduit, channel, and spiritual guidance coach. What you will be hearing today is a real session with one of my clients. All the names have been changed for privacy, and of course, with their permission, we are privileged to hear these beautiful stories to allow us a small glimpse into the Akashic Records. If you would like to book a session with me and be part of the podcast, please feel free to head to my website at infinitesoullove.com. When you book your session, just make sure to check the box that you would be interested in having your session utilized for the podcast. Soul Discovery Workshop is rapidly approaching for our next session. Registration is now open. It will be open until July 10th, and there are very limited spaces available. So make sure you head to my website at infinitesoullove.com to register. I will be also offering those who join Soul Discovery Workshop for this next course will get a discount on one-on-one sessions with me. You can pay in full. You can also pay in 4 increments. Classes will be starting mid-August. We haven't chosen a date yet because I'm going to wait to see who registers, and we're going to decide on a date together what works best for everyone's schedule. I cannot wait to connect with all of you, to help you with your spiritual gifts and teach you how to access the Akashic Records and form these beautiful bonds as you will with all of the rest of the people in the course. This week, we are welcoming back Raya. You heard a lot of her story last week regarding her spiritual awakening. This week, we are diving a little bit deeper into her heart-brain connection, listening to her heart, as well as diving into her relationship, not only with her father, but also with her sister. We touch on subject matters such as mirror souls, as well as having somebody in your life who is in resistance and how to navigate that type of relationship. So what are we chatting about today?
Today was about, they said that there's a reason why I chose my father, and they gave a little sneak preview that his energy and energies attached to him affected me, which is why I don't have early memories. And the understanding was it's got something to do with where I need to progress to. But they wouldn't say anything last time. That's why we had to make this meeting.
Got it. Okay. Was there anything else?
I just wanted to ask about first of all, my sister, because I love her to bits and she and I get along so well, but we have such different opinions. She's just as strong as I am, but it's like she doesn't want to open her mind to anything new. And she actually said to me the other day, "You ask too many questions. Why are you always questioning everything?" And I thought that was an interesting comment. It's been on my mind a little bit whether she's been sent to me for a reason or...
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure. I just thought, well, we're having a session just to check in on that, because there are some things that we really do differ on and we just let it lie. But she's just very closed off, lots of anger issues, refuses to try to heal. So I just think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And I also just wanted to just find out about, we talk about like living from our heart and living from our head, and how we try to live from our heart. And after our last session with everything, I'm actually starting to wonder I feel like I'm always trying to live from my heart, but I want to just check to see whether I actually am living from my heart, because I actually haven't felt any difference from like head to heart to know any different.
Okay.
So I thought, well, they're there just to ask whether I actually am doing the right thing and living from my heart, or whether I still have to work on that.
All right. That's a really great thing to ask. And I have like a really interesting viewpoint on that from a personal perspective. And this was something that sort of came to me just yesterday, actually, because a lot of the ascension energies that are going on right now are sort of highlighting the work that we need to do. So it's highlighting what energies we need to focus on. Okay. So if you want to look at it from the perspective of like the weakest part of your system, like where it's shining out a light saying, hey, this needs to be strengthened. And so one of the things that has been affecting me throughout this intense energetic period has been my throat and my throat chakra. I've also been sitting with it and just saying, okay, what do I need? But then what came to me yesterday was that the throat chakra is the pivot point between the head and the heart. When you have something where you're kind of going between both, you're going back and forth and back and forth. And if you have sort of a blockage or something that you need to work on in the throat chakra, like it's going to create not a barrier, but it's going to create like a bottleneck. Okay. And I've seen that often in other chakra systems where like if the throat chakra is blocked or if you have something going on there, then it basically creates a bottleneck for all the rest of the chakras.
Right.
So that's just something to think about. Now, I feel like when we did your chakra scan last time, I feel like all of your chakras were pretty clear. And I think it's based on the type of soul you are. That was correct, right?
Yeah, they were actually going to clear it for me and just it was going to self-clear. And one of the things was my throat, to bring my awareness to that, to clear it.
Okay.
My awareness is on it.
Okay, cool. So we'll take a look at that as well and see what is needed in order for that, the heart-brain coherence to happen. Okay, your root chakra looks good. They're saying it's very stable right now. And your sacral chakra, you are learning how to play. You're learning how to look at things in a different way. And similar to what you were saying, that your sister was saying to you, it's like you've got this curiosity that is asking and questioning everything, which is amazing. It's an amazing place to be because it creates new ideas. It creates new manifestations, essentially.
Yeah.
But they're in the beginning stages now. So what they're showing me is like little tiny baby little sparks of beautiful orange light, as in those are those little sparks of creativity that are just coming up and they're just starting to be cultivated.
Right.
And I'm hearing you're really enjoying the process too.
Yeah, I am.
Incredible. Okay. So let's move that energy up to the solar plexus chakra. There's a lot more sort of relaxing energy in here right now, which is great. Like I feel like prior, it was a pretty strong feeling in your solar plexus. So the light was bright, it was good, but it was like strong. And I feel like it's softened, which is nice. It's sort of this, I don't have to assert myself so much in my showing that I have confidence in what I do. I don't have to assert myself so much in convincing others. It's like you are settling into your own peace of your own personal power. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like I am after our last session. My whole body just went, oh.
It gave you permission to be who you are.
Yeah, it did.
And not be somebody else, right?
Yeah.
All right. So then let's move that energy into the heart chakra. You're not quite ready yet in terms of like putting yourself out there on a heart level. Part of that has to do with what we just talked about, which is basically like you're just now starting to get to know your own heart. And so it's kind of hard to put your heart out there for other people when you're just trying to figure out what that means for you. It's nothing you need to do. There's no blockage or anything. It's just you're trying to figure out, okay, what is really happening with my heart chakra? What is happening with my heart? And what do I want to manifest into my life? And what type of love do I want to give? What type of love do I want to receive? It's like an exploration in all of that. In that period of time, it is unlikely that you're going to be going off and like giving your heart to everybody on the planet. You know, you're just going to be like, I don't know exactly what I want to give yet. So I'm just going to keep it safe for now until I know what it is that I want to give. Okay. I'm just hearing the word allowing, and that's great. So it's like you're allowing whatever's to come in, and you're not judging it. You're not striving. You're not trying to figure out. You're just allowing. It's a great place to be in with the crown chakra. I just hear the words, I'm ready. I am ready. I am ready to do whatever I need to do. That looks really, really good.
Excellent.
Your throat chakra, it is about strengthening. So there are still tiny little bits here and there that need to be cleared, but don't worry. It's kind of just like debris that will clear on its own. But it's something that will need to be addressed in terms of the strengthening of the throat chakra. That's not something you have to do right now. It's something that will come in time once you identify like how you want to give that love, how you want to move forward in the world in this sort of new version of yourself. It'll all kind of come naturally, but there's a reason why you're holding back right now. And it's just because of this like discovery phase. I want to thank Akula, my Akashic guide. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon, for being here as well. Today, we are opening up the Akashic Records. What they want to address actually first is the heart-head connection, okay? Mm-hmm. So they want to connect with that first, because once you're able to connect and feel the difference and know the difference, then you're going to be able to feel into the information that I give you about your father and your sister in a much more deep way. So what they're saying is that you've already figured out how to live in your heart space. You just haven't recognized it yet. So this piece that you have in your solar plexus chakra that I saw, that's living in your heart space. So if you can imagine living in your head space and it's just all buzzing around, there's thoughts, there's all kinds of things going around. It's like a busy little beehive up there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you go into your heart space and it's just quiet and there's just that knowing, okay? That is the difference between being in your head space and being in your heart space. Being in your heart space looks a lot like just being. It looks a lot like, in most situations, being in your divine feminine. In other words, just allowing things to come, being in the flow, taking guided action. Sure. It's something that is certain and sure. And typically there is no fear surrounding that. So when you are in your headspace, you start to try to logically figure things out. You start to logically map things out as far as, okay, well, this is this and that is that. And you start to categorize and you start to put things in boxes and all those things, right? So that's clearly the headspace. Yeah. Now, as it passes through the chakra system, part of the reason why it gets blocked in the throat chakra is because the energy of the system flows, and the energy of the brain and the mind it's almost like too much to fit into the system. The energy doesn't match. So it's like the energy doesn't match the heart energy. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to basically kind of force that brain buzzing energy down into the heart. And the heart's like, rejecting it. Nope, that's not what we're here for. Nope, that's not what we're going to do. That energy that is coming from the brain ends up getting sort of stuck in that throat chakra. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to do, this is a practice for me that I have done, but I can say with a little caveat, it is hard to do, especially if you are in a state of, let's say, panic or lower energy, something like that. It is very, very hard to do. If you're ever in a state of heightened anxiety, if you're ever in a state of heightened sadness or anything like that, the recommendation is to simply try to release the thoughts. Trying to get into your heart space when you're in a place like that is difficult. So it's about just kind of removing the layers in order to get to where you need to be. Okay. Some of the techniques that I have used in the past are like, okay, so let's say you're worried about something and that worry just keeps on coming into your brain. So what I like to do is I like to imagine that worry and imagine it like a bunch of words, or you can imagine it in any form you want, or you can imagine it as like a little object and put it in a little balloon and allow it to be released into the ethers, into the universe, and allow your angels and guides to help you transmute those thoughts. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, once you do that, and you might have to do that several times in order to get those thoughts and those feelings out. The second thing is to check in to see if you have calmed your nervous system, if you have addressed the nervous system. And you can address the nervous system in any way you choose. So it can be anything from body movement to EFT tapping to Reiki to anything that you can do to regulate the nervous system. and be able to get to that place of peace. That is when you're going to be able to really listen to your heart, because the problem is when you have so many thoughts going on in your head and you're trying to figure something out, even if it's not a worry, even if it's not any lower energy, even if it's just something like, oh, I'm trying to figure this thing out and I can't figure it out. It's like that is so loud. And then the reverberation into the body is so loud that the peace of the heart cannot be heard. So therefore, that needs to be sort of cleared out to an extent, not totally, but to an extent, so you can actually tune into the heart. So that's the first step.
Okay.
My question to you is, when these types of things happen, how does that usually show up for you?
Through stress usually.
Okay.
Stress and self-doubt are my two big things that go into my head.
And how do those present themselves when they show?
I grind and clench my teeth. I actually feel more tense too in my whole body.
Okay.
And as you say, my mind goes crazy.
Clenching of the teeth. I'm going to ask the guides what we can do about that. Clenching of the teeth is a bracing of sorts. It is a bracing for something that is going to happen that is unwanted. Therefore, the whole body is tense and the teeth are taking on that energy of clamping down, of bearing down, if you will, and protecting oneself. If you think about when somebody is in danger, the first instinct is to crouch into a ball and hide, or to fight. It is that fight, flight, or freeze. And this is the freeze portion of that energy. If you can release the body in every way possible before you go to sleep, if you clench your teeth in your sleep, do this before you go to sleep. If you do it during the daytime, during your waking hours, it's easier to identify and then do these exercises. What we would like you to do is to do a body scan and tense up every single part of your body and release it. So you start at the top of your head and you tense up your forehead and your eyes and your ears, and you just like as hard as you can and release it. And then you go down to your mouth and your jaw. You clench it as hard as you can and release it. And then you do the same for every body part going down. So your shoulders, your arms, your legs, your torso. And doing so is a somatic movement to be able to release that tension. And then after that is done, imagine that you are going through the body scan again and just notice, just observe. You don't have to do anything, but just observe. Is there any part of your body that is still tense? And if so, relax it even further. This is often best to do while lying down, and you can do this any time of the day or night. That's going to be the first way that is going to be helpful for you to release that tension.
Okay.
It is almost like releasing the grip on something so tight that you're just deciding to let go of your hands, stretch a little bit, release whatever energy is there. Now, the other thing is to acknowledge that there might be other energy that is there that is wanting to be released. And so because you have held on to this tightness for so long, the tightness is sort of ingrained in the body. And so the release will have to happen over the course of time. So the more you do this, the somatic exercise, the more it will release a little bit more of that energy, almost like letting the air out of a balloon. So the more you do it, the less air will be in there. You might find that you will cry during some of these sessions of releasing. Mm-hmm. It just depends on what it is you are releasing, of how emotional you might get, how difficult it might be to release it. But don't judge it, just observe it, just allow it to come, allow it to release. And that should help you to move from that space of stress, anxiety, and freeze, and then allow you to start to move into the heart space.
Okay.
Do you have any sort of practice that you currently do when these types of feelings happen?
I just try to breathe, and I just I try to think of more reassuring things for myself.
Okay. Yeah, that's great.
Try to turn it around and, it's not mine, let it go, and to reassure myself and just to breathe. Usually with one hand on my heart and one hand on my stomach. I just like to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do growl.
Yeah.
More of an anger.
Yeah.
I've been known to growl and smack the bench or something. Let it out.
Oh, that's really great.
When it's really bad.
That's a really great practice to get into. The one thing that I feel like your body is resisting, though, is when you do try to talk yourself down, when you try to flip the script, if you will, the body is like, no, like we're angry about this, or we're sad about this, or we're mad about this. Like, no, I'm not going to flip the script. I need to feel this, right? So that's where, like you said, the growling or the smacking the bench or whatever it is you need to do needs to come out, because it's a fine line between manifesting a different emotion and trying to get us to feel a different way, and sort of bypassing that emotion entirely and saying, no, this doesn't exist, right? So it's kind of a little dance to see, okay, is this something that I have worked through? That is the biggest question. Is this something that I have worked through, and is this work complete? So if the work is complete and this is just residual energy that needs to be moved through, then yes, that reprogramming is perfect. Like what you're doing about, yes, okay, I'm just going to replace that thought with another thought. That's the reprogramming that needs to happen. The difference is whether or not you have completed that lesson, if you've completed that work, whatever it is that you need to do in order to move through that. The tricky thing is knowing the difference. So I'm going to ask my guides to see if there's a tool that they can give us that you can use to understand and know whether this is something that is ongoing, whether it's something that's complete that can just be cleared. Okay, so the only way that you can identify the difference between those two things is in the heart. This is why being in the heart is so important. So doing the exercises that we have outlined allows you to calm the body, calm the nervous system, dissuade the thoughts for a moment or several moments in order for you to connect into the heart. That's when you can start having the conversation with the heart and asking, is this something that I still need to work through? Or is this just a purge? And that is the difference. Oftentimes, if it's a purge of energy, you will not feel anything connected to it. So for example, Annette has experienced this twice in the last couple of weeks, where she has purged out emotion through crying, through screaming, through all sorts of means to be able to get these emotions out. But there is no particular situation, person, or event that is attached to it. It is just emotion being cried out in order to be removed from her body. Now, is it attached to a particular event, person, or emotion? Yes, but it is from the past and it doesn't need to be brought up again. If it was something she still needed to work on, that situation would pop up again. She would have an emotional reaction to it, and then she would know that that would be something that she has to work on again. There are so many different ways in which you can identify an emotion or a feeling that you are having, and the heart is the best way to translate it. But as we said, sometimes it's hard to get into the heart space if you are in those lower energies. Do the best you can, uncover the best you can, and try not to be in the heart so much that you are trying to force it, that you are willing yourself to be in the heart space. It's not something that you can break into like a safe. It is something that just is, and either you're in the frequency of it or you're not. So the energy that we were describing earlier about the beehive energy of the mind, then going through the throat chakra to the heart and knocking on that door and wanting to be a part of that heart energy, and the heart energy saying no, it is because it cannot break down a barrier, because there is no barrier. It is just simply that the energy isn't aligned. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. I know that a lot of it comes from judgment of myself.
Sure.
Not trusting myself as I should. Not trusting my confidence levels in myself. Yeah. That's where most of it comes from, where things pop into my head. What other people think of me pops up in my head, and that gets me tense because it's like a lack of trust in myself. So that's why I try to turn it around, that no, they're out of my life now. Their opinion doesn't matter. I know that I'm doing right, or I know that I'm doing it correctly, or whatever.
Okay, that's a really great example. So in your current life at this moment, do you have any other people that are reflecting that back at you? that you're not good enough, that you're not doing it right, that you're not doing it in a way that you should be doing it. Do you have anybody reflecting that back at you right now?
No, I don't.
Perfect. So that's a really good indication that that work has been complete. Okay. So if that work has been complete, great. Now it is about reprogramming the brain. The things that you say to yourself, let's say you feel like somebody is judging you or somebody is saying something to you and you don't think that it's coming out in a way that is supportive. Then what happens is you can go down that path and be in the self-loathing or the self-criticism, or you can just stop it. And so you can use the same exercise with the balloon if you want to. You can actually take those thoughts, put those in the balloon and release them to the universe. Okay. Having also some form of anchor is also helpful in these types of situations. You know, I've talked often about that anchor that I had with the Ed Sheeran dream and how that is anchoring the feeling of love within my life, right? Now, anytime I hear an Ed Sheeran song, like it's instant joy. What they're showing me also is like another example of this. I was just watching Wicked, the movie, not too long ago, and I noticed this. It was just the funniest thing when Galinda is walking past a mirror and she just stops and looks back in the mirror and she says something, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, "Oh, I look good." She says it in a way that it's like, I have the utmost of confidence. And I just thought that that was the most amazing thing. For me, it's like walking past a mirror my whole life. I've always struggled with body issues. So now it's like anchoring in that feeling of like, if I walk by a mirror, I can just look at myself and go, I look good. You know, like you can do that to be able to anchor that in, right? Yeah. So whatever form that takes for you, I feel like that's something that you're going to need. If you want to talk about your skill set or about what you're here to do and how you serve your clients and all the things that you do, figure out a way to anchor in some form of, yeah, I'm really good at this. And yeah, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path for where my soul wants me to be. Like all of those statements that you want to sort of anchor in, figure out a way to anchor that in the physical by some means. And you can ask your angels for help for some form of anchor for that, whether it's a statement, a movie, a crystal, it could be anything. It could be a physical object. It can just be something like a song or anything that's going to get you in that mood.
Okay, can do that.
Once all of that is complete and the work that you do for this, for connecting the heart and the mind, it doesn't take as long as it's taken for us to go through these statements of what to do and how to go through it in the body and how to release it from the body. These are things that will just sort of come naturally and happen. And then eventually the heart-mind connection will be seamless and you will be able to go back and forth between the two. Because one of the things that people have a tendency to feel is that like the ego and the mind is bad. We don't need to live from that at all. And I disagree. And that's just my personal opinion. I think the mind is very good. It's just when the mind runs away with things that it shouldn't run away with, that's the problem. That's where the grounding comes in. That's where the heart comes in to basically say, hey, brain, okay, back over here. We're over here now. We're good. And then the brain can come back and say, oh yeah, okay, you're right. Okay, cool. You know?
Yeah.
All right. So the exercise that I recommend for the heart connection is something that we have done before, but now with all of the rest of this information, I want to try it again. It is a very simple exercise. If you have a question or anything in your mind right now, or a thought, I want you to ask the question in your mind, anything that just comes to you right now. Do you have the question?
Yes.
Okay. So I want you to ask the question. Sometimes it helps to ask it out loud, but just ask the question and see what your brain says.
I just asked, am I a good person and doing the right things that I should be doing? And it's just saying yes.
Okay. Do you believe it when your brain says yes?
I do believe it.
So then what I would like you to do is I would like you to just imagine a beautiful cord of light coming from the top of your head, going through your throat chakra into your heart space. And I want you to ask the exact same question And I want you to connect to the answer that your heart is giving you.
This is, I just almost like have nothing.
Okay. So you asked the question and you got nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get any feelings?
Just a little bit of fluttering.
Okay.
Almost like a nervous type fluttering.
Okay. All right. So let's see what is going on there. Okay. All right. They're giving me another sort of exercise analogy. They want you to imagine right now that you're at the top of your head, you're in your mind.
Okay.
And they want you to just feel like an energy of yourself moving like an elevator. So the thoughts are going to stay up in the mind, and you're just going to move your energy like you're going down an elevator, down your nose, your lips, your chin, your throat chakra, almost like you're dropping into that meditative state. And then direct your attention to the heart. So do you feel any difference between those two spaces right now?
Yes, in my heart, it's almost like I want to say like a heavier feel. If that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like it, when people say when you drop into meditation, I feel like that's kind of the feeling they're talking about. It's like you're dropping into that feeling of connectedness. I would like to reframe that. It's not heavy, it's like a full feeling. Like it's a fuller feeling as opposed to it's not a negative heavy feeling, but it's like you are dropping into an energy that is fuller, that is bigger.
Yeah, it's not a negative. It's almost like a weight.
Yes.
Like you can feel your chest.
Yep.
If that makes sense.
Exactly. I just want you to sit in that space for a moment and breathe through it. And the question that you had in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like you to not necessarily ask the question, but just feel the question. So you don't have to go back up into the mind to ask the question, but you can sit in this space of the heart and feel the question that you want to have answered. And what does that feeling do? Does it change? Does it feel the same?
It actually brings tears to my eyes.
Can you identify why?
It's almost like I shouldn't even be asking that question.
Yes. It is the recognition of who you are. So often when we are connecting to the true essence of who we are, it is so beautiful that, like you said, tears will come to your eyes. You will recognize the beauty of who you are. So how does that feel?
Feels good. It's like a very different feeling.
Yeah. So you just did it. You just connected into your heart, and that's what it feels like.
Yay.
So now that you know the difference and what it feels like, when you are in that space of beehive buzzing, you can address all the bees, that's fine. But then you can take a moment and do this exercise and go into the heart space and just feel the question.
Okay.
And you will know the answer.
Definitely practice that.
Yeah. So I feel like for you specifically, you have an incredible gift of feeling. And it feels to me like you have this interruption in the feeling when you are in the head at all. Like if you are in the head, in the brain, like any sort of mental anything, it's like that feeling just sort of gets overshadowed. Okay. So it's in the quiet of the heart space that you're going to be able to access all of these things.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Because my head is always very busy.
I mean, most of our heads are pretty busy. So, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. It's just for you, though, it is about your innate talents in your spiritual gifts that are lending themselves to the feeling more so than the claircognizance, because claircognizance is great, the clear knowing, but if you can't identify the clear knowing amongst all of the thoughts that you're having, it's kind of useless. It's not like you can pick them out. And so for you, I feel like with your talents lie in the body, in the feeling. And so that is where you're going to find the most information for you.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So now that we've done that, we are going to connect to your father, and we're going to take a look at what past lives you've had with him, what the reason why you came together. Angels had past lives together before this incarnation. Yes. Okay. They are not soul family, but they have been incarnating for the last several lifetimes. Okay. They have agreed in the soul contracts to work through certain things. Can you give us a context of what they've been working on? Yes. We're going to give you the origination point of their first incarnation together. All right, let's take a look. The first thing I'm hearing is he's embarrassed and he doesn't want you to see this. He doesn't want you to see this first lifetime together. Okay, that's interesting. I'm hearing him say, I failed miserably. Like we set out to do something in our soul contracts and he did not uphold his end of the bargain. Yeah, and he's got a lot of embarrassment for how it went down. Okay, all right, that's good to know. All right, so let's see what happened, please. You were actually husband and wife in this first lifetime.
Right.
And they're going to tell me what the challenge was or what the soul contract was after the fact, but I'm just seeing him physically abusing you. It feels a little far away, meaning that it was many lifetimes ago. Okay, so what is it that they were trying to accomplish together in that soul contract? The soul contract that they had created for each other was that needed somebody to come in to give her contrast in order for her to grow on a metaphysical and spiritual level. Sometimes the contrast that we sign up for has that effect. So whether it is a loss of a loved one, whether it is a loss of a pet, or it can be somebody physically, mentally, or emotionally beating you down until you decide to say no more and you decide to come out of it. And that creates that self-empowerment. What was written in the soul contract was emotional abuse. It was him reflecting back at her all of the things that she thought of herself. So if you can imagine the negative self-talk that people often have, essentially he was being the mirror to be able to say those things directly to her in order for her to reach a point where it was too much to take. You met his soul through other members of your soul family who had had incarnations with him, and he had been able to achieve some of the things that they needed him to achieve. He has often come in as a mirror for many people's shadow. That is part of what his soul purpose is, in fact, is to be a mirror and to allow people to see what they need to work on. It is incredibly draining for him to be able to do this job. And at times he gets caught up in the collective energies that are going on at the time. So he has a tendency to incarnate and then take a break. He needs to clear his energy and then he'll incarnate again, because what happens is the things that he has to do in order to be the mirror are often things that create psychic debris around a soul and make it difficult for that soul to move forward or get over some of the things that they've done. There are things about his soul, though, that allows some of the psychic debris to be transmuted in real time. The problem is that what they had signed up for was not physical abuse, which took it to an entirely different level and ceased at that point to be a mirror and ended up creating more problems than she had originally signed up for. This is why he has this embarrassment. The collective energies that he was tapping into were from the surrounding people that were living in the village that you lived in. Many of the men in this village would beat their wives as a means to punish or control. So what was the reason why they incarnated in this particular village then? Like why would they have incarnated in that energy if that was a potential? This was at a particular time in history where husbands beating their wives was actually commonplace. If they did not do something that was ideal, or if they made a mistake, they looked at women like children, and they would even do the same to their children, where they would hit their children in order to discipline them. And men saw women as the same in this particular place at this particular time. It feels Nordic. Like the men I'm seeing are just very big and very burly, and they're wearing a lot of coats, like a lot of hats and coats and things like that. So was this as far back as like Viking times? It was. Yeah. Okay. They were not in Norway, so to speak, but it was similar in culture. It was near Oh, I'm hearing Denmark. Okay. But I'm hearing it was like really, really up in the like northern part, very rural. Part of the reason why you chose this particular place though was because you felt like the cold and the remoteness of this place would allow you to do the work that you needed to do.
Right.
You would have like few distractions.
Right.
And unfortunately, it just didn't happen. After that lifetime, it's like your father could not be more apologetic for that lifetime. Like he is so sorry for that lifetime.
That's nice to hear, actually.
Yeah. It's like, you know, his human self just got caught up in being human. You know, we forget sometimes that we're souls and we forget that we're here for a particular reason. It kind of destroyed him in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah, he was picking up on there was some collective anger as well. And that's kind of what came through. Yeah. Okay. So after that lifetime, you were left with this like pile of psychic debris that you were like, crap. I didn't think that I was going to have to deal with this. Like I was wanting to advance. I didn't think that I was going to have to clear more psychic debris from my energy field. Once you got to the other side, you did not incarnate with him for many, many, many lifetimes after that. He had to do some work. You had to do some work. And then because of the soul contract that hadn't been completed, you still needed to incarnate with him again. Can you explain to me, angels, why they wouldn't have nullified that soul contract on the other side? They could have, but they didn't. She wanted to give him another opportunity to clear it for himself. And she knew that he was the exact right type of soul to be able to give her the experience she needed. Okay. This is the first time I'm hearing about mirror souls.
Right.
Is this something that is common? Yes. Where that's their job, is to just be a mirror, correct? It's got to be not an easy path, I imagine.
It'd be hard.
Yeah. Okay. So then after that, you incarnated with him for a second time, but I'm seeing a very, very long gap. So when you incarnated with him the second time, he felt that, well, you both did. You felt that if you were parent-child, it would be a much better connection because there is that inherent love between the parent and child, regardless of what is going on, because there is that connection. So from that point forward, that's how you decided to just be parent-child.
Right.
And he's actually been very good they're showing me 3 lifetimes. So the last 3 lifetimes, you have been able to achieve the things that you've needed to achieve. He's been able to do the work that he needs to do for you, and it has been working. It's just been taking a little bit longer of a time than you had initially expected, given this other lifetime that you had been spending so much time to get over. The first lifetime, it was a good thing because you were able to see the places where you were insecure, the places where you were not feeling adequate or good enough. The challenge with him in that lifetime was that he was spending a lot of time saying, oh, well, maybe you should do this, and maybe you should do that, and maybe you should do that. So like he was trying to give you his viewpoint and his opinion on what you should be doing to better yourself, as opposed to you receiving just the acceptance for being who you are without having to be anything else.
Right.
And so you spent a lot of that next lifetime chasing that approval, as opposed to just saying, Dad, why can't you just love me for the way that I am, rather than trying to make me something else?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what you're kind of doing now. And I'm feeling like in this lifetime, though, it's like you don't necessarily need his love. You don't necessarily need his acceptance or approval, but you have been able to step into that space of, this is who I am, and you need to love me for who I am.
I mean, I haven't seen him since I was little, since I was like 3 or something. I haven't seen him. But interestingly, I ended up marrying somebody who was emotionally and mentally abusive, which I think is just looking at the pattern of that's what I've been coming through with him for, and I haven't seen him. So it's almost like I chose somebody else then to marry to do the same thing, isn't it?
Well, so yes and no. I feel like what happened was in this lifetime, you did achieve the contract that you set out to accomplish with your father. And that's why he left your life at such an early age, because you didn't need that energy anymore. You didn't need that mirror anymore. You accomplished what you needed to accomplish with him at that age. And you got to that place of like, I am lovable no matter what. Okay. You got to that place with him on an energetic basis. What was happening though is that the residual feeling of not being good enough in a marriage was still there from the original lifetime you had with him. Now, he was not going to be able to accomplish that with you. He was not going to be able to clear that for you because of what had happened in the first lifetime. And he didn't even want to go there. He didn't even want to touch that with anything. We will complete our soul contracts together. It will work out beautifully. And then I will depart your life. And then whatever psychic debris you have left in your energy field from this emotionally abusive situation, then basically what you're going to do is have that experience with somebody else so you can finish clearing it.
Right.
And I'm getting that this person that you married in this lifetime, I don't want to say that it was easy, but it was easier in comparison to what it had been had you been with that other soul. That was your father.
Yeah, right.
So you have cleared out that energy entirely?
Yes, I feel like I have. Yeah.
And there's a part of you that is still a little worried that it could happen again.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
But you have to understand that it won't happen again. And the reason why it won't happen again is because you would never allow it to happen again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
That in and of itself, the fear of it happening again has more to do with the trust in yourself rather than somebody else coming into your space.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So all of this is redirecting you always back to self-trust, self-love, and self-acceptance. Do you have any other questions about your father, specific questions that you wanted to have answered?
Just in the last session we had, it came up, that little sneak preview they gave, that there was something to do with the energies that he brought home with him. It wasn't just his energy. Apparently he brought energies home with him, which affected me as a little one, and that's affected my memory of early childhood as well.
First, we need to explain to you a little bit what a mirror soul does. Mirror souls are exactly what it sounds like. They stand as a mirror for everyone else's shadow. The problem is when you are a mirror soul, that energy is being placed back on that soul. So if, let's say, for example, your father's soul is reflecting back at that person that he's standing in front of, the feeling of anger or disappointment, that interaction that he has with that person on a 3D level will likely be anger and disappointment. And so as a three-dimensional human, he has to be able to transmute that energy and not take it on. The problem is that as a mirror soul, he had deep, deep feelings of regret and shame and embarrassment over the lifetime in which he was not able to transmute that energy of the mirror when he was in the relationship with you. So what had happened was he took on the anger and the frustration and the behavior of the people around him. And that is how that lifetime unfolded. Because his soul had this psychic debris of embarrassment and shame, which were lower energies surrounding the soul, what ended up happening was the ability for him to transmute became diminished. So the lifetimes that he incarnated with after that, his ability to transmute the energy as it was coming in, as he was becoming the mirror for other people, was not as effective. So he would start taking on aspects of whatever that person was dealing with. And so if he were to go out and mirror back at somebody something that they were ashamed of or working on, he would take a bit of that back home with him. And for you in this lifetime, that was constantly happening for him whenever he would interact with anyone else as a mirror. And then he would come back home and have those energies. Now, you as a soul, and especially as a very young child, remembered that previous lifetime you had together. You recognized the energy and your soul was screaming, "Oh, hell no, I am not taking on this energy." And so you tried to not take on the energy as much as possible, but it was very difficult. And I'm seeing there being a time where he held you or he was in your energy field and you were just swimming in that energy. You knew it wasn't yours on a soul level, but your three-dimensional child version of yourself was experiencing heightened states of anxiety, fear, anxiousness based on the fact that you were in his energy field. Now, he is somebody that was able to handle these energies to an extent because this is what his soul's job is. Your job, although you are here to help clear people and help them on their path in terms of their energy, there are certain energies that you are not necessarily meant to intermingle with. And this is what kind of created that oil and water effect.
Right.
That's part of the reason why you don't have memories or recollections, is because it was so mired in a lot of his energy that it was almost as if you couldn't see your own experiences.
Interesting.
Huh. Did she leave for a time? No, she did not. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, but your soul did sort of pop out of the body every so often. So if his energies were too intense, your soul would actually like kind of pop out and like go somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little bit like astral traveling, but not while you're sleeping. So when you're not sleeping, your soul can pop out of the body. It can't go very far, but it can go a decent ways away to get away from psychic debris. So that's kind of what you were doing most of the time.
And actually, I think that came up in the last session. I think that was to do with this little previewy bit that they talked about. Actually, astral travel came up in the last one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That all makes sense now. Okay.
So yeah, it was self-preservation. It was self-protection.
And that could have a lot to do with knowing what he's been through. That could have a lot to do with the fact that, because he's schizophrenic, and I remember you saying that's a lot of fractures in the soul and things. So that could have to do with from what he's been through too, couldn't it? That sort of makes sense.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that could certainly present as schizophrenia when you are carrying around a whole bunch of other energy that isn't yours.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That all gels, doesn't it? Fascinating.
So they're saying that you don't necessarily need to remember that first part of your life. Is there something that you wanted to remember about your childhood? Or was it just a curiosity as to why you weren't remembering it?
Just curiosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just saying like there's nothing in there that you need to work through, transmute, anything. There's nothing there that you need to do. It was just a matter of self-preservation, dealing with the last bit of that soul contract with him. And then he left when the soul contract was done.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's quite incredible.
Cool. I love how they weave a story, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. I've certainly put myself in the middle of some lives though. My goodness. No wonder I'm carrying so much into this one, like trying to get to the bottom of everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like there is a fear and a paranoia as well on a soul level that is like, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess this up because you saw how much it set you back in that previous lifetime. And so what was interesting though is that it wasn't you who messed it up. It was just the circumstance and what happened. But because of that, because of what happened, you're like, okay, I don't want any more setbacks. So I want to make sure that I do absolutely everything perfectly. And you don't need to worry about that anymore. That part of your journey is done.
Done. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so then let's move into the information about your sister. Is she younger?
She is, yes. She's the youngest of four of us.
Is this with your father?
No.
Okay.
She's got the youngest two have a different father.
Yeah, okay.
There's 2 and 2.
There's a difference in energy between her and you. And there's I just see in her energy this absolute need to keep everything together. So it's almost as if she took on some of the energy from when your father left. And it's like she's trying to keep the house of cards from falling. So she is holding on so tightly to the idea of family being close-knit and perfect and together and all of these things. And it's not something that she is allowing to grow, change, and evolve. It's like she wants things to be exactly her way.
Oh, yes.
And when she doesn't get that from especially family, she gets really angry.
Yes. Yes, she does.
Yeah. Okay. So what she is holding on to is the security in what she perceives as a family unit. So in her mind, in her consciousness, she is saying to herself, safety is in having a very tight family unit that always does X, Y, and Z, that are together, X, Y, and Z, that are doing this. Like she has all of these rules that equates safety to her. And none of these rules apply to anyone else in your family. And it's almost as if she's there alone going, why isn't this all coming together the way that it needs to? And it's in her own mind that she feels that it needs to come together in that way. And meanwhile, you and the rest of the family, you're just like, we're just doing our thing. We're just living our lives. And it's like she's got this feeling of, this is the only safe thing. If we are in this little bubble, if we are in this place of everything is the same, everything is clear, everything is exactly as it should be, that is where her safety lies.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
And that is where her resistance comes into new ideas, because she derives her safety from the ideas and the belief systems that she has. And so if you were to say, hey, actually, what if your belief was something different than that? What if you had a belief system that was different than that? And to her, that is a threat. That is a threat to her actual safety.
Right.
So to her, anything that's different from what her belief system is a threat and needs to be eradicated.
Wow, so it's that powerful. I had a feeling that it was like that powerful to her.
Yeah.
It was that deep. Yeah.
They're showing me a cat cornered in an alley and just the cat like hissing and spitting and clawing when you're not actually doing anything. You're just trying to like pick up the cat and move it or save it in some way or put it out of harm's way, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing anything to the cat, but the cat is just like freaking out.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the energy that she has at the moment.
Yeah, she really does. Mm.
And the problem is what it is creating is the inability for her to work on the things that she needs to work on as a human. And she is stuck in this ball of belief systems that are outdated, that don't belong for her or for the family. If one of those belief systems started to crumble, it would start to unravel the rest, but she would be left a puddle. Like she would be left with no structure, no root chakra base, like nothing. She would be left with like virtually nothing. And she would have to build again.
Yeah, and that's what worries me, because she's a very private person. Like if something starts going wrong, she just won't talk to anybody. She locks herself away.
Yep.
Won't talk to anybody, won't see anybody, won't, just leave me alone. Yeah.
And so the problem with that is that you're not letting solutions in. And it's not to say that the solutions need to come from somebody else. They do need to come from within her, but we don't grow in a vacuum.
No.
So we grow with the experiences of others. And if you are in a vacuum, the growth isn't necessarily going to take place.
Yep.
Okay, so I want to actually take a dive into what your roles are together so you can sort of do what you need to do, obviously without having to kind of push her, because your job is not necessarily to push her into something, but if you can support her in some way, that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Yeah. How many lifetimes have they had together? They haven't had any lifetimes together. This is the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you incarnated together because she needed you as a mentor.
That's interesting, because I was sort of like a step-in mum because my mum was next to useless a lot of the time growing up. Mm. And so I was like, she used to introduce me as her second mum. This is my second mum.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you are to her on many, many levels.
Right.
One of the things that is coming up is that what you are showing her is that the releasing of a belief system is not the death of your identity. The releasing of a belief system is an expansion of who you are. So one of the things that I've always said as an example is if I get some information in the Akashic records that is information that helps me to update a particular concept or to know more information about a particular concept that actually kind of, I don't want to say contradicts, but maybe negates the original belief system, because maybe the original belief system was based on only a couple of bits of information that I had, but now I have several bits of information. And so this belief system is growing or changing based on this new information. And so I can let that other belief system go. Okay. So you can see how that can expand and help somebody to grow, right? Whereas people who are stuck in things like religion, where they say, this is exactly how it is and there is no other way, then it stagnates your growth. And the problem in that is always fear. Fear that whatever it is that is out there that is going to expand your knowledge, expand your consciousness, expand whatever it is that it needs to expand is going to be worse or scary, and that you won't be able to recover from it. And that fear is what we have to walk through in terms of the trial by fire, if you will.
Yeah.
That is the time when you walk through fear in order to push through, in order to overcome. There are often times that we have asked the question, do you push through, or is this a redirection from the universe? And the answer is always, if it is based in fear, and if it is something that is keeping you stuck, then it is something you are meant to expand through. If you just continue to keep on getting doors slammed in your face about a particular situation, that is coming from external. That is the universe showing you, no, there is a different way. If you yourself are the one closing the door due to fear, that is what needs to be expanded upon. That's what needs to be moved through.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything else that you need to tell us about how she can support her sister? Most of her support is through leading by example. She can hold space for her sister to be able to come to her with anything that she needs to talk about. We would like you to keep the image in mind of the cat cornered in the alley. What do you do when a cat is in defensive mode? You sit there and you wait for the cat to calm down and you wait for it to come to you. And so what we would suggest for you is to be able to hold that space for her and not push. So if she has a particular belief system and you see that belief system is completely outdated or wrong, then you can open a container to speak with her about it, hold the space to hear her out, possibly offer your own belief system regarding that subject, and see how the conversation goes. What she is responding to mostly is the pushing energy. If there is any pushing energy of you have to do this, or you must do that, or you have to get out of that belief system, she is going to curl back up in that ball and put up those walls of protection around her. So she needs to be carefully and gently coaxed out of what she believes, and that will only take time. Okay. Is there something that is recent that you have spoken to her about that she's stuck on?
I've offered her Reiki healings because she was excited when I was doing it. But then when it came to the time, nope, don't want that. Nope, I'm not having that. No. And straight away I thought that's resistance, because it comes with healing, of course. And I don't ready to face a lot of things. It's anything really, anything where it's opening your mind, or even like when I have to correct her from childhood things, because the whole family sort of broke apart. She was much younger, so she remembers things, as a lot of children do, incorrectly. Their imaginations take over, and I've actually corrected her on a couple of things, so she knows the truth. And she doesn't respond well to those things either, but she'll accept it. So it's really anything. I question everything in life and she can't deal with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because questioning would make her grow.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to do that right now.
No, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of anger and upset within her, I know, just from childhood and growing up. But yeah, it's just that resistance all the time. Even, going away, I said, it'd be nice for us to have just a little break together, sisterly time. Nope. I like my house. That's where I want to be. Nope, not going anywhere. Just everything is resistance.
Yeah. Does she have a partner or anything like that?
She ended that at the end of last year. He was an American actually, and they were working on bringing him out, but he just wouldn't pull his act together. And in the end, she had to put a timeline on things and he just wouldn't come to the party, so she had to end it.
Okay.
And even with that, she locked herself away. Don't want to talk about it. Don't want anybody's opinion. I just need to get over this by myself. I just want to be left alone. Yeah. She had a little doggy who passed away some years ago now. She's never gotten over that, ever.
Yeah.
She still has the ashes there and she kisses the ashes hello and goodbye, and will never have another animal because of this one who passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has a lot of pain and grief going on that she is not addressing.
She does. Yeah. That's what worries me.
Yeah. The only thing that you can do, like you said, if you say, oh, I'd like to go on a sisterly trip. She says, I like my house. Cool. Okay. Well, let's go do something for the day. If you like your house, let's go and, just take a day trip somewhere nearby. Start small. Okay.
That's what we tend to do. Have a day with each other.
So do those types of things, sort of meet her on her terms, because the challenge of this is that if you try to change the way she is now, she's going to see that as a rejection of who she is. When and you can see very clearly that she is not her fears. She is not this grief and sadness that she has, but she is identifying herself as that. And so we have to accept the people in our lives with where they are and love them through it. And I'm assuming that she's not taking it out on you necessarily, that it's just resistance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's just, I feel it's all resistance.
Yeah. She's not being mean to you. She's not trying to take you down in any way. Like there's no animosity towards you specifically. It's just how she feels about herself.
I think so. I mean, the things she says, like, I know she doesn't mean it in a nasty way. Or the other day, just stop asking questions. You ask so many questions. Sometimes I just want you to just be quiet because you just keep going on and on and on about it. And I haven't, but she doesn't want to open her mind to that subject. And I know that's where it's coming from. It's a subject she doesn't want to think about because it might include opening her mind, which she doesn't want to do. So I know that's where it stems from.
So next time that comes up for her, or if she says something like that to you, one of the ways in which you can handle it is you can say, this is how I am. And I'm a curious person who loves questioning things. And I know that you're somebody who likes to accept things the way that they are. And we can still love each other through both of those things.
It's funny you say that because that's exactly what I say.
Incredible. Yay.
That's exactly what I say to her. This is who I am. I love to question things. I love to know, and I love to think outside the box.
Yes.
It's throwing ideas around and I just sort of lighthearten it,
Yes. And so you're doing exactly what you need to do to help her. You're saying the right things. You're doing the right things. You're holding that space for her. The only thing that I would say is you do have a tendency to want to push her in a particular direction. And that's the piece that she's resisting.
Yeah.
So don't try to push her in any particular direction. Just allow the information to come through. And if she has resistance to it, that's fine too.
Okay.
The thing is that this is a challenge for most of us who are on this journey, where once you get to a particular place in your consciousness and in your awareness of how the universe works and all of the things that you've learned, you can't unlearn it. So it's like you're looking at the world through a different set of glasses than other people. And it's hard to not live in that space. So there are times when I'll have conversations with people and I will speak in the way that I speak, and I will look at it from the perspective that I look at it from all of my experience in the Akashic Records. And to the person who is not looking through those glasses, it might just sound absolutely bonkers, right? And that's fine. It totally is fine. I have no problem with somebody looking at that and saying, I don't understand that. That looks like it's nuts. And there have been times when, for example, I've seen signs of things, or, where I've had my guides flicker on and off lights and turn off my television and do all of these, what people would consider supernatural things. And I have had people say to me, oh, well, didn't you just consider the fact that maybe the light bulb was burning out? Or didn't you consider that maybe that just happened, that it wasn't your guides?
Yeah.
And how you know when somebody has grown and somebody is in their own heart space of belief within themselves is when they can entertain that idea and say, oh, well, actually, yeah, you might be right. Maybe the light bulb was just going out and maybe that wasn't a sign from my angels. All right, I could consider that. But then you know as well as I do that after that, you're probably going to get 7 or 8 more signs from your angels if it was in fact a message from your angels. Like they usually don't give you just one sign that can be disputed. They will give you multiple signs. So it is unequivocal, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that is in the response that you have. So in the response that you have, like somebody challenging what you're believing or what you're saying is if it's in a, oh yeah, all right, cool. Yeah, I'll entertain that. I'll think about that. And then come to their own conclusion. That's when you know that they've grown. And so that's the place that you need to get to with your sister. Now, that's the place that she needs to do the work. And that's not the work that you have to do for her. She's going to need to get there.
Yeah.
But that's how you can show by example. So if she shows you a belief system that you are like in resistance to, you can say, okay, yeah, you know what? I haven't thought about that. Or maybe I have thought about that, but I haven't thought about it in that particular way. Maybe I'll think about that and just entertain it. Even if you know in your heart that it's not something that you want to bring on as a belief system, but entertaining it for her to be able to see, that's what people do when they can take on other information is you take it on, you process it and say, is this something that I want? No, I don't think this is something I want in my belief systems. Okay, cool. I'm going to let that go. So showing that process to her is going to be helpful because if you continue to show her resistance, like sisters do sometimes, one sister says one thing and it's like, no, it's this. No, it's this. You get in this like resistance fest. It's not going to break that pattern for her.
Yeah.
So if you're able to break the pattern and say, oh yeah, that's a really good point. I never thought of that. Maybe I'll think about that. But this is how I feel about the situation. And this is what I know. What other options are there?
Yeah. When you learn and you do open your mind up and your heart up and things, I find that as I grow more, I end up almost like with a frustration towards some people around me. I don't want to feel negative. I just find I start to get frustrated. Like, I suppose that's a normal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you just, I suppose you're moving on from other people, aren't you? Like you're sometimes moving away from people or...
Yes. So it depends on what kind of relationship you're talking about. So I find that as a collective, that when I'm in like just a crowd of people, it can get overwhelming, annoying, irritating, those types of things because of just the energy that is surrounding you, right? So sometimes just people's energy in general can set you off. But then if it's somebody that you know or somebody you have known for a while that is doing something, being something that, let's say maybe you used to be, or you used to be in that energy and you're no longer in that energy, it can actually get a little frustrating or annoying. The way that I usually handle that is I look at it from the perspective of, all right, so why is it annoying me? Is it annoying me because I recognize that that's how I used to be? Or is it something within me that is triggering? Or is it just that I'm really uncomfortable in this other person's energy? So being able to identify what it is can be really, really helpful.
I think the more I do healings on people and see the results people have, I see people around me who, complain about the same thing over and over and over and do nothing about it and won't even come and like try something like a healing or something along those lines to improve it or to move on from it. That's where I start to feel very frustrated seeing results with all these different people. And then I get other friends of mine who just won't do anything about it and just continue to complain.
Yeah.
It's more that in that respect. And I don't want to feel that. Like, I'm not feeling nasty. Like, it's not a nasty feeling. It's just, like I could help you, or between me and the kinesiologist and the naturopath, we can help you,
Yeah.
like I'm right here. I'm right here beside you.
Yeah.
It's that sort of frustration that, you don't want to see people struggle, but they have to help themselves and they won't help themselves. And you're right there who can help them. It's that frustration.
I can imagine my sister felt much of the same frustration with me when we were younger, because my sister was on this path of spiritual expansion since she was 18. And throughout the course of the years, she would give me Deepak Chopra books, Wayne Dyer books. She would give me all these books, right? And they went straight on my bookshelf and I never read a single one. And this went on for a couple of decades, and finally I got to the point where I was open to it, where I had my spiritual awakening, where I started going through this. And all of a sudden I looked at my bookshelf and I have all these resources that are just waiting for me, So like all of a sudden I had all these books and all these things that I could reference as I was going through this process. And so I'm sure that for her, it was incredibly frustrating to see me go through all the things when she could have helped me, or when any of these books that she gave me could have helped me, and I wasn't on board with it. And the answer to that question is, when somebody is ready, they'll come to you.
Yeah.
When somebody is ready, they'll be there. And the frustration is just something that you have to work through. You just have to understand that it's all in its perfect time, I just had somebody comment on one of my YouTube videos. It was an interview that I did on one of the old podcast episodes. And the person responded to the video saying, "Why does this have such low views? This is the most amazing piece of information I've ever heard." And I said, the reason why is because it's going to find the right people at the right time. So even though I probably made that video 2.5 years ago, who knows? It might blow up in 6 years because it might be the thing that people need at that time. So it's just like, you just need to know that whatever it is you're doing, you're helping the people that are wanting the help. And the people who don't want your help right now, it's okay. Like, they will struggle until they decide, I don't want to struggle anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know it's a frustrating piece, but it's just about making peace with where somebody is.
Yeah. And I actually give that advice to people as well, they might not be ready to release, like my sister, they're not ready yet. And it's a caring frustration. It's not an angry frustration. It's a caring frustration.
There are so many times when I say something to clients in sessions, and this will happen when I'm editing the podcast. I'll say things to clients in sessions and I'll be like, oh, wow, yeah, I should take that advice. Yeah.
That's right. It's almost like I give the advice and now I've got to actually take my own advice. It's like that, take your own advice first, isn't it?
Yeah. 100%. All right. So we are going to close the Akashic Records. Thank you to Akula, my Akashic Guide. Thank you to Archangel Metatron and Archangel Sandalphon. The records are closed. The records are closed. The records are closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. You are very welcome. And I will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Once again, I would like to thank Raya so much for allowing me to record this session for the podcast. This session was recorded exactly 1 month after the session you heard last week. So there was a little bit of growth, a little bit of reflection, and we touched on some different subject matters this time around. One of the things that we really continued with was the connection to her intuition. When we connect into our hearts, that is sort of the core of the truth that we know within our energy fields, within our soul. And the exercise that I did with Raya is something that you can do at home to be able to really start connecting the heart and the mind, because they do need to be connected. A lot of people really feel like that having the mind involved at all is a bad thing. And it's not, because our guides need to use our intellect, our brains, our emotions, every aspect of our physical being in order for us to receive that communication. The challenge with the brain comes with that buzzing, as I was speaking of, the beehive buzzing, the lots of energy or busyness that's going on inside the brain. So it is important with most things that you do to be able to make those decisions from your heart and not your brain. Now, the one thing that I find difficult in this is that when I go into my heart and ask my heart what it is that I need to do if I'm making a decision, or what the feelings or thoughts are regarding a particular situation, sometimes what the heart has to say is counterintuitive to what the brain would want to say. It's maybe not logical. So it's funny that I just used the word counterintuitive, because it's actually sort of an oxymoron in and of itself, because it is actually your intuition that's speaking rather than your brain. But to us who live on this planet, who are constantly thinking, and looking for logic in the 3D, proof in the 3D as to how things are, what makes logical sense for this decision, weighing the pros and cons, all of those things. So you feel like making a decision with all of those factors in mind is the right decision. But then you go into your heart and your heart is like, nope, that's not the right decision. This is the right decision. And maybe that feels wrong to you. Maybe that feels like it goes against all of your intellect, all of the things that are on the outside that are proving to you otherwise. And if that's the case, that's where you have to start building that trust in your heart, in that heart center, that it knows what it's talking about, that it has that emotional and spiritual intelligence to be able to guide you in the right direction. Now, it's not to say that logic and three-dimensional things aren't useful. They are. However, the heart should have the final say. Your heart should always be the one making that final decision. So I want you to try it this week. When you have a decision, when you have a situation coming up, what does your heart have to say? Ask your heart, what is the best decision for me? What is the next right step? And see what comes up. It might surprise you. The other aspect, which this would be sort of a more advanced technique, is to be able to get to a point where your heart and brain are completely aligned. So when you ask the question of your heart or your mind, the answer is going to be the same. That is something that comes with practice. That is something that comes with trust in yourself, trust in your heart and your intuition, trust that your soul and your angels are guiding the way to your highest timeline. My guides want to channel a little technique here that you can use when you get to that space after you've connected to your heart, what you can do to start making sure that when you are moving through your life, that your heart and your mind are connected and are feeling and thinking as one. As Annette mentioned, practice is going to be your biggest help, connecting to the heart often, connecting to the heart and then connecting to the brain to see if the answers are the same, seeing why the answers are not the same and feeling into those energies. That is your first step. Your next step is to live from the space of being present in the mind as well as the heart simultaneously. So in the first exercise that Annette gave to Raya, she had that cord of light going from the top of her head and going through the brain all the way down into the heart space. That is almost bypassing the brain to get to the heart. For the sake of learning how to do this, this is necessary. But once you get to a space of being able to connect into the heart and you know what that feels like, you can then simultaneously set your intention to pay attention to the energy in both your brain as well as your heart and connect into that divine intuition as well as that universal consciousness and be able to come up with an answer to a question, to be able to bring peace to a stressful situation, whatever it is you're looking to do, allowing yourself the openness to be able to have both simultaneously communicate with you at the exact same time. This will take practice. It will take honing the skills of paying attention to not only what your thoughts are, but what your heart is saying, what your intuition is saying, what your guides are saying, where those different bits of information are coming from, and collectively making your assessment, if you will, your energetic assessment based on all of those pieces of information. If this is proving to be too difficult for you, we always will say, come back to the heart. Come back to the heart, and the heart will always tell you exactly what the truth is. The benefit to having the heart-brain coherence working together is that when you are in a space where it may be difficult to connect into the heart, if you are in a busy space, if there are a lot of people around, you can't go into a meditative state. When the heart and the brain are connected, always, it is easy to be able to make heart-led decisions with your brain always connected to your heart. This is a concept that is easy to speak about, but it is not one that is easy to accomplish in a short amount of time. This does take practice, this does take trust, and it takes commitment. Commitment to self, that this is something that is very important for you to do, and that you make this a priority. Okay, thank you so much. That was a really good example of how we can take that to the next level and what we need to do in order to do that. I can definitely say that I have not necessarily gotten to that next level on a regular basis. I know I have done it in real time where I've connected my brain and my heart. I've definitely done it in real time, making decisions, that sort of thing in the past, but I don't know that I'm doing that all the time, like 24/7. And a lot of that has to do with some of those lower energies that we feel. So the fear, the doubt, all of those things that can kind of come into play. Outside influence of people that come in that can sort of sway your decisions or sway the way that you think. And that's a really good segue to actually talk about what Raya was experiencing with her sister. This is an important topic, especially right now with so much division in the world. This is the one thing that will help you get through any sort of conversation, debate, argument, anything that you come across. Understand and know this. A person who is secure in their belief systems and fluid in their belief systems, meaning that they are open to other opinions or ways of being, will always see another opinion, hear another angle, and not be threatened by it. So if you're having a conversation with a friend and they say something that you don't necessarily believe, if your reaction is to get angry at them, to tell them they're wrong, to try to convince them that you're right, or try to sway them to your side of the argument, that just means that you are insecure in what you believe. That means that you are needing somebody else to believe what you believe in order for that belief to be stronger. The other aspect could be that you feel like you are absolutely right and there is no other right answer, which is also showing immaturity and resistance. The challenge with being so stuck in your beliefs is that you don't allow other information to come in. And other information is actually really helpful, because it can either solidify a belief system, or it can completely tear it down, or it can add to it. It can make it stronger and more beneficial. It just really depends on the information that's coming in. So pay attention to how you respond to certain people. Pay attention to how they respond to you. Are they getting angry and frustrated? If they are, chances are it's because they have doubt about what they believe. They're afraid that what they believe could be disproven. And I try to live from the standpoint of everything can be disproven. Everything. The challenge is whether or not you would like to live in a space of being open to as many forms and angles of information as possible. Because the more information you have, the better you can make an informed decision. The better you can hold different opinions and viewpoints and have compassion and see where other people are coming from. You can maybe identify that this person is believing that particular thing because they are in a lot of fear, similar to Raya's sister. There are so many things that we try to do as humans to get people on our side, and it is completely unnecessary. We don't need anybody on our side. We have our belief systems. We have our experiences, our personal experiences. And our personal experiences shape some of those belief systems. And there may be people out there who have never experienced some of the things that you have, in which case they are going to have a completely different viewpoint on a lot of different subject matters. And you cannot expect them to understand or jump on board with your belief system if they have not experienced the exact same things that you have. So you can see how all of this can get very sticky if you are trying to sway somebody, if you are judging someone, if you are saying that somebody is absolutely wrong and that is the absolute answer. There's problems in that. There are things in this world that we deem as a collective as wrong, let's say. We can say something like abuse. And that is something that we covered in the session today as well with Raya in that previous lifetime with her father. We can say that, yes, abuse is wrong. But to the person who is abusing, to the perpetrator, maybe they don't know any different. Maybe they were never taught how to manage, express, or feel their emotions. And so their body, their energy field becomes a powder keg. And they feel they have no other way to express themselves. Maybe they were not shown love as children. Maybe their parents didn't know how to love. There are any number of things that can happen to a person that would drive them to be doing things that we would consider as a society as wrong. Are you ever going to get into a space of saying in your belief system that abuse is okay? Probably not. You're probably not going to get to that space ever in your human self. But pay attention to what we connected to in that past life for Raya. She had signed up for a lifetime where she was going to be emotionally abused by her partner. She signed up for that as a soul in order for her to have that contrast to be able to step into her own power. When we look at it from that perspective, what does that do to the belief system that the person who was abusive to her is a monster when it's something that their souls together agreed upon before they came here? Now, granted, it went really wrong because her father, who was her husband in that previous lifetime, ended up physically abusing her as well, which was not part of the plan. But it is an experience that they were setting up the energy for. So you can see where I'm getting at with this. You cannot judge people for where they are, what they're doing, what role they're playing in this lifetime. And your belief system about it could be entirely wrong because you do not have the information in that person's soul contract. You don't have the information in that other person's Akashic records. So the best thing to do in these circumstances is to be open to new information and be discerning about that information as well. I'm not saying that you need to take on every bit of information and say, yeah, that could be true. Oh, that could be true too. Yes, you can do that in your exploration phase, but then you can come to some form of a conclusion about a particular belief that you have. Maybe that changes. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it makes it stronger. Whatever it does, I want you to ask yourself in your life right now, where are you in resistance? Where do you not want to go? What do you not want to look at? Because those are the pieces that are going to be the most expansive for you. I want to thank you so much for joining me this week. We have one more episode coming up next week before I'm going to be taking another little break, and I look forward to connecting with you then. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would be really amazing if you could like, share, and subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, feel free to give it a review if you feel called. If you are following me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you are notified for every single new episode of the Akashic Recordings. If you feel called to book a session with me, you can always reach me at infinitesoullove.com, and you can book directly on my website. Thank you so much for all of your support, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.